It's Blissen Up. I'm your host, Rachel Lang, intuitive astrologer. Get starstruck with inspiring guests and engaging conversations. Blissen Up starts now. All right. Hi. Welcome to Blissen Up. I am your host, Rachel Lang, and I'm here in studio with John Williams.
Good morning.
Hi, John.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
You're looking great. I love that color on you.
Thank you so much. I had a little bird told me to wear teal today, so I listened.
Well,
and
March is all about shamrocks
and green. Yep,
so,
absolutely.
Look at the Irish.
Yes, and this is vintage. I'm wearing vintage.
Very nice.
So this is my all month long. Well, most of the time I try to wear socially responsible clothes, but and vintage is about as socially responsible as you can get. It's recycling, and I love vintage clothes. So I'm pretty excited. Thank you, John.
Yes.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I told you before the show I went to see Wicked last night, and it's great. And it's just funny because it's reminding me of we said that up there.
My witch self is coming out.
Yeah, exactly. So I did think about you during the show, which is funny. I didn't really make the connection with the witch. It was more the vocal tone.
Really?
Yeah, which is a compliment. So,
thank you. Thank you. I love it. Well. Yeah. If you see me flying on a broom later on.
It's such a great story.
I know. I love that.
It really is. I encourage anyone to go see it because it really tells you the backstory of what's going on with the wicked witch who's not so wicked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about how our judgments and are a lot of times based on faulty perception.
Exactly. And rumor.
Yeah. Exactly. So speaking of faulty perceptions, no, I'm just joking. No, we are entering. John and I were talking about this before the show. March is a really significant month, astrologically speaking. We have the final of 7 Uranus-Pluto squares that have been going on since 2012 that indicate that we are in a time of revolution. I mean, these are the same. This is very similar to the conjunction that we had in the 1960s that kind of sparked lasting and systemic changes in our society. And in addition to that, this March we have the eclipse on March 20th. That's going to be really profound, and it's a solar eclipse, so it's going to spark shifts and spark changes in your life that you're going to see on an events level. And so this month, I really wanted to focus on I'm calling it marching forward and talking all about how we can look at the astrological language, the symbols that we have in our society, in our heavens right now, and talk about making change in our personal lives, because every change in our personal lives has a ripple effect. And especially, for our cardinal signs, Cancer, Aries, Capricorn, Libra, your sun sign is very, very closely involved in this series of squares that we have going on. And so for you might be feeling a little bit rebellious, a little bit angsty, like you've got to say something, you've got to speak. All of us are feeling that right now, and especially with Jupiter in Leo. Since September of 2014, we've all been feeling like this pull, this need to express ourselves, this need to use voice, to raise our voices, and really speak up, and speak up about certain things that are wrong, certain challenges that we're facing in our lives, whether it's personal, in our relationships, or in our jobs, or politically. In what ways are we being controlled? Is our food being controlled? Are our reproductive health choices being controlled? And so we're all having these aha moments, these tremendous awakenings that are facilitating this process of change. And so this is really a time when we are returning to our hearts, returning to what impassions us and what makes us feel a sense of connection and desire and crave that connection with other people. And we're also realizing the ways in which things fall apart when we disconnect from our hearts, and when we feel a sense of separation from others and from the divine. And we also realize that that during this time when we say really difficult things or things that have been stuck within us, that we move into that fear, and then all of a sudden, bam, we discover courage and we unearth it in our hearts and in our bodies and in our lives. And so that is a profound moment when courage just gets awakened.
Yeah, I like the 4 C's. Have the have the courage to make a choice to create lasting change.
I love that.
That's my little...
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, John. That's so great.
Yeah, I think
4
of
C's.
The 4 C's, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. Well, today we have a guest who is a change agent, and I'm so excited. Vali Forrister is going to be our guest today. She's going to be Skyping in just a few minutes. Vali is the artistic director of the Actors Bridge Ensemble, which she co-founded with Bill Fahey in 1995, and she's based in Nashville, so the Actors Bridge is in Nashville. She's produced over 80 productions. She has authored 6, and she also is the creator and vision keeper of an organization that I am deeply passionate about called Act Like a Girl, and that's a girl with GRRRL, girl. It's a year-round autobiographical writing and performance program for teenage girls, and it helps them to gain public voice through articulating their lived experiences, and it's all about self-expression, helping girls, empowering them through the arts and through self-expression. She is a true activist, a true change agent. She's been the recipient of the Nashville Business Journal's 2013 Women of Influence Award. She's been considered a trailblazer. She's also the recipient of the Vanderbilt University Women Mentoring Women Award, a finalist for the Avon Hello Tomorrow Fund to empower women and change the world, recipient of the Broadway World 2011 Star Award, and she's one of Nashville's top directors and top actors. She's written, directed, and produced plays, spoken internationally on a number of topics, including violence against women, victims' crimes rights. She's spoken at Take Back the Night events, and so much more. And she has expanded Act Like a Girl internationally, with groups forming in Washington, D.C. and other cities in this country. And I've actually personally had the privilege of traveling with her to perform in Costa Rica and Bolivia. So it's growing to an international program. Mm-hmm. And I'm just going to be a little bit self-revelatory right here. So I met Vali, I guess about almost 10 years ago. And it was a time in my life when I was making some significant changes in my life. I'd realized that so many of the decisions that I had made up to that point had been made for other people, like fear-based, trying to fit in to what I thought was what I was supposed to do. But as happens when you make those kind of decisions, I realized that my life had become really small. And I watched that movie, The Incredibly Shrinking Woman, with Lily Tomlin, and I was like, oh my God, that's me. Wow. So I had started to break out of the smallness and started to stretch myself. And at that time, Marianne Russell, who was our guest in November, said, you need to meet my friend Vali Forrister. And so I met Vali, and she said, you sound like you'd be really perfect for co-leading Act Like a Girl. And I was like, great, let's do it. Sign me up. And I had no idea what I was getting into, but it was an experience that changed my life, because I worked with these girls in a circle every day for a month, and listening to them access the courage to share their stories and talk about their deepest fears, their greatest longings, their joys, their dreams, and really watching the transformation that came about because they were using their voices. I realized I could do the same thing in my life. And then I watched the performance, and there was not a dry eye in the house. And so I saw how the power of story can change lives. And it really did. It changed my life, and it helped me access the courage to say the things that were really difficult for me to say at that time. So I'm excited to have Vali here, and she'll be joining us in just a moment. But first, let's get starstruck. All right. So we start the day today by closing out our full moon energy. We had a full moon yesterday, and I'm sure many of you felt it because it was a powerful full moon. Full moons are great for clearing out clutter, especially with the full moon in Virgo, because Virgo asks us to clean out our closets, to organize our lives, to put things in order. And so today the moon's going to be moving into Libra, and which is fun for us because Libra's social, it's outgoing, it wants us to kind of connect with other people, it wants us to sort of dress up and step out, and so that's going to be happening this afternoon at 4:51 p.m. Now, tomorrow and Sunday are a little bit challenging, especially for our cardinal signs, because there's a lot of tension with the moon. The moon's going to be in Libra, but it's going to be applying aspects to different planets that are going to be a little bit tense. So remember, as I like to say, tension is our greatest teacher. Step into it, find out what in your life is trying to shift, is trying to evolve. Tension pushes us in just the right ways. So engage with tension, relate to tension, ask it some questions. Why are you feeling restless? And especially for those of you who are stuck inside in the snow, because there are so many people in this country who are having to face like major weather challenges, and that will bring you tension, like cabin fever. So that's something to engage with tension. On Monday, the moon enters Scorpio, and it starts the week out on a really powerful note. So especially for you water signs, like this is a time of an emotional intensity when you're getting down deep and sort of exploring the depths of your soul and some of the desires that you have for changing in your life, but also for stretching the way that you connect with other people and expanding into more intimacy, realizing that there's not really much separation, that you can be vulnerable, you can trust, and that it's safe, that you're safe to do that. For you fire signs on Monday's going to be powerful for you. It's a really intense sort of like with that Scorpio moon, but we also have Jupiter and Mars in a favorable trine, and so it kind of moves us all to action. It's a day where you fire signs are going to feel unstoppable, and it's a really lucky day for you, especially if you're trying to change something in your life. It's a time when you can access the courage needed to change. Geminis and Aquarians, this fits for you too. This is also a day of incredible shifts forward. So ask yourself, what have you been procrastinating? What have you been holding off? This is a time to tackle it. This is a time to get down and do it, especially if you've got some fears that you're coming up against. And so for those of you who are water signs, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces, this is a great time for creative efforts. Do some imagination, do some imaginative and creative exploration, some daydreaming about what's possible for you. Take a step back from your routine and really stretch yourself. And so this is going to be going on. On Tuesday, we're still going to be feeling this energy. So get outside, hike, bike, move in nature. You'll need an outlet for all of that energy kind of building up in your bodies. And so it's a great day also to start an exercise routine or to start a diet if that's what you've been trying to do, or hire a personal trainer. So that's a little bit of Tuesday's influence. Then on Wednesday, our earth signs might have a desire to plant things, and that's metaphorically or literally. What are you trying to grow in your life? This is a time to put down those seeds. We have a Mars, Uranus, and Pluto are all in kind of a challenging configuration. And so all of us, especially our cardinal signs, are going to be feeling a buildup of internal stress, internal conflict. So watch your words. Be very careful with what you say. The things that you say have lasting implications on this day. So start the day with meditation. Start the day in prayer. Ask your guides, your source, the divine, to be with you all day and really help you practice kindness when it feels like the last thing you want to do. And also just be open to the ways in which the universe wants to nurture you. Be very gentle with yourselves. And especially if you have resentments built up, either against people or institutions or the Koch brothers or anything like that. Ask yourself what is the symbol of this story of this story that I'm involved in. What is it trying to tell me about myself? Direct everything inward, and that will help you to place blame or to get into a situation that's less favorable or less comfortable for you. So always look for the polarity. What am I feeling? I'm feeling resentment. Well, what's the opposite of that? What is the polarity of that? It's acceptance, or it's love, or it's something more neutral. So kind of move back and forth between those poles, between those polar opposites, to find a middle and neutralize that energy for yourself. And then you can really see things from a more rational perspective and start to facilitate change in your lives. So that is the highlight of our week. We are going to now that we've been starstruck, we're going to welcome our guest, Vali Forrister. Is she on Skype right now?
Well, we will get her on.
All right. Excellent.
Just one moment.
John's working magic back there. John's been to the witch school too.
Exactly, right?
The witch school.
I'm the wizard behind
yes, totally. The wizard behind the curtain.
Okay,
great.
It's a ringing.
Excellent. Wonderful. I'm so excited.
Let's see here. I think we got her.
Vali?
Yes.
Hello. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
How are you?
I am great.
Good.
Val, can you go on cam a little bit for us?
Yeah, I'm
okay,
sorry.
no
problem. I had to change rooms since we tested this out.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
I lost connection in the other room, so you're getting to see my whole house today.
Oh,
excellent.
Nice.
Have fun.
Yeah, I'm looking to see, you can see a little bit.
You look great.
Oh, you're sweet. I wish I could see you.
Well, we're recording it, so you definitely
yes,
will.
Yes, you will. You
will. Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Vali, we are in our month of marching forward of social change, and one of the things that I love about your work, and all of your work, everything that you do, but is the way that you have found to use your gifts to explode the gifts of other people, and you do that a lot through narrative and through story, and I want to start with talking about Act Like a Girl, because it's an organization that's so close to my heart, and can you tell us a little bit about the organization and about your inspiration for starting the organization?
Sure. Well, first I want to say that I don't think it would be where it is today without your involvement. So
thank you.
I'm so grateful that you are in my life and in the life of Act Like a Girl.
Thank you.
So Act Like a Girl started 11 years ago. And was motivated because my niece Haviland came to me when she was 12 years old, and she shared her poetry with me for the first time. And I told her it was good. And she said, "No, it isn't. My teachers say I'm too dark." And Haviland was a great writer. She was a really great writer. And I run a theater company here in town, and I tried to explain to her that I knew something about good writing, and she wouldn't hear it. She was convinced that her writing was bad because a teacher had said it was dark. And I was in the process at that time of leaving my day job at Vanderbilt to work full-time for the theater, and so I started thinking about what I could do for Haviland and girls like her to give them a place to be dark if they wanted to be, or to be light, to explore themselves and to ask important questions of themselves. And so the other thing that Haviland said to me that day was that she wanted to be a writer when she grew up, but that she knew a woman couldn't make a living as a writer. So she was going to be either a teacher or a secretary.
Wow.
Yeah, this was in 2004. And those are both fine professions if you are choosing them because it's your calling. But to think that they are your only options, I mean, it freaked me out. My head almost spun off my body.
Absolutely.
To think that my niece, a middle-class kid from Nashville, would think that those were her only two options really freaked me out. So I wanted to create this place where Haviland could be light or dark, but also where she could meet fabulous adult women that were doing things that she might not think you can grow up and do.
Yeah, exactly.
Like become an intuitive astrologer, for example,
Sure.
How many different kinds of women doing amazing work in the world could I introduce Haviland and girls like her to?
Mm-hmm.
So that was what motivated me. And sort of the idea really came overnight. And I woke up the next day going, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll start a writing and performance program that will run in the summertime. And I'll give the girls writing prompts and they'll write about their lives. And I'll introduce them to guest artists. And then it'll all culminate in a public performance.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where we started, with 6 girls in a little room on the Vanderbilt University campus. And it has grown into a much bigger program that happens in Nashville and the Washington, D.C. area, and has happened in Costa Rica and Bolivia. And there's now a program for adult women. And we've done the program in women's prisons as well. And I was just on the phone with someone this morning who's interested in us coming to Belgium.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, so pack your bags, girl.
Oh, yes, totally. Well, and we've also talked about forming a coalition to bring it here to LA too.
Oh, I would love that. I would love to
spread
bring it to
the
LA.
revolution.
Yeah.
That's great. And now, so because I've been involved with this program, I've seen how these girls change over the course of the time that they're in the program, because they get down and they ask themselves some of those questions that so many of us don't really push ourselves to ask, and find stories where maybe stories might be hiding within the subconscious. And I think that one of the things that you really do that is so powerful is that you help them to get to those places. Can you talk a little bit about the process that you use to do that?
Yeah, sure. The most important place to start is with a willing group of participants. So one of the keys to making it work is that every girl really wants to be there. So I interview girls when they apply and make sure that it's really their idea and not their parents' idea,
right,
that they come and join this group. And so when you're starting with a group of girls that really want to be there, and then you make the environment sacred and encourage them to see only each other's best selves, and to do the self-exploration to figure out who that best self is for you, and support the other girls in finding out who their best self is, then this beautiful, authentic community begins to arise, where they naturally believe in each other more than anybody outside the circle. And so you've got this really beautiful little cocoon where they all believe in each other and believe that anything is possible if they work together. And so once that is established and they begin to trust each other, then the girls who come are already dying to do this work. They are dying to know themselves. I think teenage girls in general are interested in exploring their emotions and discovering who they are and articulating their values. And unfortunately, our society, at the moment they're really craving that information, our society tells them to sit down and shut up.
Yes, absolutely.
And wants so much less of them. Everybody's asking for a teenage girl to take up less space, be smaller, whether it's physically being smaller or not being as loud or not being as outspoken. And girls respond to those cultural messages and they become introverted. They begin like folding in on themselves, even sitting in a classroom. And so what this process is doing is actually asking them to expand at the very moment that society is telling them to contract.
That's so incredible. Because I think, as I was kind of introducing you, I was talking about how when I met you, I had realized that my life had shrunk to that really small place. And I think that process of reinforcing messages of shrinking, like your writing is too dark, that they really have consequences that stretch into adult life as well. And so I think that, one of the beautiful things about the program and about this work is that, these little girls, or not little, but these are like powerful, strong, amazing girls blossom past, like stretch past those messages, those limiting messages throughout the course of the program. And I think too, the other thing is, can you talk a little bit about, like, so being in a community, girls are often, given messages about needing to be competitive with one another. How does that work in the circle?
Yeah, I think one of my purposes this lifetime is to dispel the competition myth. I'm out to blow it up in all its forms because we've all been sold that lie and from a very early age that we can't trust other girls and other women. And it keeps us feeling isolated and alone. And when I say to girls on the first day of the program, this can be the sisterhood you've always dreamed of, they instinctively know what that means.
Yes.
And then we spend a good chunk of the first day articulating what that would look like. And once you articulate what it looks like, then, I'm in the theater business. I can make it happen. I can make it look like your ideal community. We can go after your dreams and we can hold each other to the standards that we set out as a group to intend. And these girls prove it over and over again that there is not a sense of competition in the room. They are all eagerly supporting each other. And we talk a lot about the concept of both and, meaning that you can be both beautiful and smart. When I was growing up, you had to pick beautiful or smart. You couldn't be both.
Yeah.
But that also means that all the girls in the room can be beautiful. There's not a limited pie of beauty. And if one girl has 80% of it, there's not much left over for the rest of the group. Everybody can be 100% beautiful and 100% talented. The well is not empty. It goes on and on and on. And so that sort of sense of, oh, she's gorgeous, but I'm beautiful too. Or she's a great writer, but so am I. I write differently, but it's just as good. Is kind of a revolutionary message to them.
And to everyone. I mean, I'm thinking about this, this is for everybody. So yes, it works for the girls, but each person listening here has some of those same limiting beliefs. Like, I hear it often, in my own mind sometimes, but also in my client practice. Like, I if I have a career, I can't have love, or so I think that that message just expands that box.
Yeah, and I have a circle of adult women who are going through the program right now too, and I think there's one woman in our group right now who feels like she has to choose between her career and wanting to be a writer, and and sometimes it's as simple as having the witness standing outside yourself, going, "Really? Right. Is that really true?
Totally.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah.
Let's unpack that for a minute, because if you can dream it, you can be it. So how can we change the conversation and make it both and?"
Beautiful. So now your master's work was in personal narrative, correct?
Yes.
How do you see narrative or personal narrative as a tool for change?
Well, I think we are storytelling creatures, and that story is how we make sense of the world. And facts motivate us to a certain extent, and statistics are nice. But the thing that really motivates us in our lives are stories.
Right.
And the way we are telling our story is very important to what our life looks like. And so for me personally, I was the work that I did in graduate school was about performing intimate life texts, those intimate stories or taboo stories that usually are not spoken out loud. And I did a one-woman show of intimate stories from my life that I had never spoken aloud before. I wrote them initially as a script, and then I shared them within a protected environment at my grad school. And then I did a public performance, and then I critiqued that whole process. And what I discovered was that the I was changed by the public performance.
Really?
That the writing of the story was an important first step in me reclaiming the way the story was told. Mm-hmm. And then once I cultivated the strength from the supportive environment that I shared it with first, once I got strength from that, I was able to step out on stage and share those stories with an audience of people that I didn't know. And from that, I felt freed from those stories. I felt like I had reclaimed myself as the hero of my story and as the author of my life's journey. Mm-hmm. And so that's really the work that inspires Act Like a Girl, is taking these girls from a blank page on the first day of the program and leading them through a process that culminates in a public performance, but also allows them to let go of any stories that are no longer serving them.
Beautiful. Well, and what's interesting too is, so you also were the first person in Nashville to bring the vagina monologues to that community.
Yeah, in partnership with Vanderbilt, way forever ago.
Totally.
Yeah.
So it's kind of amazing how this thread of narrative for change and changing your stories has run throughout your professional life.
Yeah, and I have to tip my hat to Eve Ensler. She is an amazing force for good in the world. And the second year that we did the Vagina Monologues in Nashville, she had invited someone from each local cast of that production to tell their own story. Mm-hmm. And it was the 10th anniversary of the year that I had been raped. And I had never spoken publicly about the fact that I was raped when I was in college. And it was eating me up inside, because in spite of all the other work that I had done around the importance of telling your story, that was a story that I was not going to tell because I was afraid that people would judge me and see me as a victim, and, all of the negative stereotypes that go along with knowing someone's lived through sexual violence. So I had never told it. And when I heard that Eve was asking someone from each local cast to share their story, I knew that it was an invitation for me to tell that story out loud for the first time. So the very first time I spoke it publicly was in front of about 1,500 people.
Wow, Vali.
In Langford Auditorium at Vanderbilt. And it completely and instantly changed my relationship to that story. Mm. I stopped having panic attacks. I stopped having nightmares. It was, and not like gradually, like instantly, I was done with that because I was no longer holding the secret. Mm-hmm. So I know how powerful it's been in my own life. So I want to pass that on to as many people as I can for as long as I can.
Absolutely. How did you, so when I think those stories, like you're saying, that those secrets, those stories that you're afraid to tell, it requires so much courage when you're holding something, and something, it feels like that story can feel like it has power over you, or you can feel almost like the victim of the story itself. How did you access the courage that you needed to access in order to step up on stage and tell that story?
I think that's the place where the supportive community comes in. There were 13 women in my cast that year, and they gave me the strength to go out on that stage because I literally could not move. And two of my closest friends, one was on my left and one was on my right, and they supported me literally to get to center stage because my legs were not working. And my mind was saying, he will find you and kill you if you tell this.
Wow.
Because he had sworn that he would find me and kill me if I told it.
Wow.
He's in prison for the rest of his life, but and so it's not logical that I would believe that he would find me and kill me, but in my brain, I was very convinced that it would end my life if I spoke it publicly. And so having these women around me and feeling the energy of my entire cast supporting me, and the energy coming back from the audience, knowing that they could sense how hard it was, but they were encouraging me to do it. And I literally found my voice in that moment and reclaimed myself, like I said before, as the hero in that story, and specifically as the warrior, because it took a really strong fighting spirit to live through that and recover from it.
Do you feel like everyone has that warrior, that fighting spirit to move into those stories that feel disempowering?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a matter of finding the key to the way to tell it that frees you from it. Right? If I had told the rape story about what he did to me, that would have just reinforced my victimhood.
Exactly.
That's not, I didn't tell anybody the details of what happened. I told them about how I jumped from the car and ran for help. I told about how I prosecuted him and stood in front of a jury and said out loud what he did to me. The acts of courage that I took to live through it. That was the way that I found my hero self and my warrior self in that story. And it was the first time. The story had been told many times before. It was all over the press in Nashville when it happened. My name was not identified with it, but it was a famous story at the time. And it had been told by lawyers, and it had been told in whispered tones by people who had heard the rumors, but I had never told it. So this was the first time that I got to author it the way I wanted it told, with the focus being on my strength rather than on what he took from me that day. That's
so incredible. And, I'm remembering as you're talking about this, I'm remembering times in Act Like a Girl when girls have had to say things publicly about their dads or about their boyfriends or about their fears or themselves. Like they've had to say things that me personally as a teenager would have been terrified to say. And so I'm reflecting on the fact that the girls are those sort of that community that they help, that you really help them to stand next to each other, to support one another in telling those truths.
Yeah, and they intuitively get that. I don't have to say much about it, but almost every year there is a girl who is publicly sharing a truth that's hard to say. And if she stumbles, because it's so hard to say, intuitively and instinctively, another girl shows up beside her, puts her hand on her back to let her know, quite literally, I have got your back. And in some cases, takes over reading for her until that girl can compose herself enough to finish it herself. Or if she doesn't want to finish it herself, her sister in the circle will finish it for her, so that her words get to come into the space. Her words still get to be released, even if she can't be the one to do it on that particular night.
Beautiful. Do you have ideas or thoughts about how we can do that, how we can be that for one another in our everyday lives?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, as we talked about earlier, is dropping competition. And when you drop competition and you want for another person the best that you can think of, then you naturally come to their support when they need it, whether it's in the middle of making a presentation at work and they just need that that look across the boardroom table that's approving and nodding and supportive, or whether it's helping a family member confront something in the family that's going on, and they need to know that somebody's got their back. I think that when we want the best for each other, we instinctively come to each other's aid.
Absolutely, I agree, and I've kind of recontextualized competition for myself in a certain way, because I realize that I'm only ever competing against myself, and so when I feel threatened by someone else, it's like I have to look at myself and say, what does that person represent that I am trying to achieve? Like, because it always goes back to us, goes back to ourselves.
Yeah, definitely.
So what do you think, what is next for Act Like a Girl and for you?
Well, I want to take over the world.
I think you're already on your way to doing that. I'm behind you. I'm one of those supportive people in your life.
Thank you. So the way to take over the world is that this message has to spread further than I can spread it by myself. So I am wanting to train other people in this methodology and send them out into the world to do good work. And I want to do more international work and bring girls from different cultures together, like the program that you were with me on in Bolivia, where we paired 7 North American girls with 7 Bolivian girls, and they didn't know each other, they didn't speak the same language, but gorgeous, life-changing work happened for everybody that was involved in that process.
It was so great.
And so I want to do more of that. I want to bring together people from different cultures and create sisterhood in a broader perspective. And I want to establish a retreat program for adult women, because I think adult women have such a hard time carving out the time for themselves in the midst of busy daily life, but to go away someplace beautiful and be able to just concentrate on self-discovery and healing would be a wonderful treat.
Absolutely. I totally, I love that. And I was actually part of the Act Like a Big Girl, and then that just being in an intentional community makes such a difference. So who is like, if someone's listening here and they think, oh my gosh, I want to bring this program to my community, who is kind of your ideal leader to bring to become involved, or to perhaps train as a trainer or as a leader?
The ideal candidate would probably be somebody either with a theater background or a writing background, and definitely some kind of women's studies experience and feminist consciousness. I think that's a prerequisite. And then it helps if you know a little bit about scripting and performance. But if you're stronger on the writing end of things, then we can collaborate to make performances happen.
Excellent. And who is your ideal candidate for being a donor or for contributing?
Anyone who wants to give money is my ideal candidate.
Excellent.
It's part of the magic of Act Like a Girl is that it brings together women and girls who otherwise wouldn't know each other. And so that means that not everyone can afford tuition, both in the teenage girl population and in the adult women population. So funding is essential to make sure that mix of people stays diverse. So Act Like a Girl is part of my theater company, which is a 501c3. So all contributions are tax deductible.
Excellent. Wonderful. And people can find out more at actlikeagirl.org.
Yes, and that's GRRRL.
Triple R. And if you're going to hashtag anything about this, triple R revolution.
Yes.
So
Yes.
everyone, join the revolution and find out how you can become involved. Vali, thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel.
Do you like the applause?
I love it. That's great.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Wonderful. Isn't that amazing? She's such an inspiration.
She sure is. Yeah, empowering women all over the world.
Yes,
That's wonderful.
absolutely. I know for myself, watching the girls perform has been significant, been life changing for me. They're just the way that they use their voices. They write their own songs. They write their own pieces. They perform and choreograph their own dancing. Wow. So it's really incredible. I think the arts, have that power to really express, and change. Like you were talking about Wicked and having,
I know. I think this is so interesting. I keep thinking about Wicked because it's, we're just talking about courage and we're talking about stories and we're talking about, rumors and just everything. It just all comes back to what I experienced last night during that show. So, and then you're wearing this green. It's so crazy.
It's all connecting for John.
It's all connecting for me today. Yeah.
He's having a moment. So that is, I think that's exciting. Everyone, really find out more about the program, actlikeagirl.org. And you can see little clips of different performances. They have a YouTube channel, so you can find out a little bit more about their work in Bolivia. And I'll be posting those on my Facebook page and on my website as well, so you can follow that. So we are continuing our month of change, and next week is another really exciting show. Cool. So we're going to be talking about basically I'm going to be talking about the astrology of social change and talking a little bit more about some of the influences that we have going on right now in our cosmic conversation. Talking about Ceres, which I'm totally hooked on this, and we have this new black hole that we've just discovered, that's just been discovered by Chinese astronomers, and so we're going to talk a little bit about the influence of the black hole, and what that means for you in your personal life. So tune in next week, same time, same place. I want to thank my amazing creative team, Valerie Madden, John Williams, Tony Sweet. And I had the pleasure of being on Tony's show last Friday.
Yeah, that was fun, huh?
Yeah. So find the archives on Truth Be Told was the show it was on. So I want to thank Michelle Polino, Deborah Behrens, Allie Lang, and we're going to send you off with a little Rihanna, who is a Pisces, our Pisces musician. So,
all right.
So have a great week, everyone.
Yay!
Yay!